I'd like to introduce Mark Gerrard. Mark is Carbon and Transformation Manager at Bell Bay Aluminium Australia, and Bell Bay is one of our major conference sponsors, so thank you, and has been involved with the BALT Business Action Learning Tasmania's work at Bell Bay. Mark's going to talk about the 10 years of Business Action Learning Tasmania experience. So over to you, Mark.
So I think just to start, this is a bit of a reflection of 10 years of Business Action Learning Tasmania. So it's really about BALT, but it's from a Bell Bay Aluminium perspective. Phil's given a little bit of an introduction to us, but I think the photo is a great one to reflect on, because it's what we've missed out on in this particular conference. It's this beautiful part of the world that I've just come to in the last 2 years. And however, I must say the intimacy that we've just been involved in this session is great, and I'm sure it's going to work well for this particular presentation as well, without seeing the site and the region. Bill gave a bit of the highlights of Bell Bay's position in Tasmania, but I think when we look back 10 years in Tasmania, it was a state that was its business was really focused on agriculture, timber, heavy industry manufacturing. It's certainly changed a lot in the last 10 years, and it's more service orientated. It's got niche products. It's such a diverse little ecosystem of businesses. So we're talking from a perspective of heavy industry, but I think this, when you look at the companies that have been involved over the years, this particular methodology and the reflections ring true for any type of business, any type of organisation that you may be involved in. So just a few of the bases. We're part of the Rio Tinto group, and we've been collaborating with the BALT team, Business Action Learning Tasmania, for the last 10 years. That one's not working, Jen. Do you want to? This is the skip slides. Okay. So just a bit about myself. I've already had that introduction. What I want to focus on there is that I've been at Bell Bay Aluminium for the last 2 years, and I'm a late entrant into the Business Action Learning Tasmania. So it's a real privilege to talk about this piece of work that's we've been a strong part of over the last 10 years, because I can see so many benefits, and I trust what we are going to explore over the next 20 minutes or so really pulls that through. I had a lot to do with business improvement in my previous work through heavy industry. I hadn't, though, learned anything about action learning. That was a new concept to me when I arrived, and Bill's been quite an advocate for the process, and I've really seen the strength in the program that is in place. So we'll just go. Firstly, I just want to take you through what the program looks like. Many of you would have a pretty strong understanding of this already, but I'll re-emphasise it. And then we did a little bit of action. Bill and I come up with a plan on how we could reflect this. That's not my view, but the view of our business. It's working here. So in the opening of the conference, Bill touched on the key principles of Business Action Learning Tasmanian program. And they're just described on the left there, and enable companies to learn with and from each other by tackling real problems of vital importance. The Tassie industry was very insular, and I think this is one program that has really brought the big businesses together, but also the smaller players that are learning how to operate a highly efficient business. The other pillars were to demonstrate the application of lean principles across the business and disseminate those learnings with the companies involved. And the third one, a real critical one, is we're doing it for personal development of the people within the business or the organisations, and that be recognised through certificate for and competitive systems and practices. So the way the program works is there's usually typically 3 companies, and a project is nominated with 2 people, and each nominated person will contribute to the home company's project and one other project. So as a participant, you get to develop not only across a wicked problem at your business, but in another business. It gives you that fresh eyes look. It gives you a taste of how other organisations work, and it can really help test your learnings. You end up with a team of 4 for each project, and often there's been a 5th person added, and we've done that more recently because we see such benefit from it. I think some of the benefits here are. Sorry, I'll just get back. Jumped out a bit there. The participants come from different situations because of the different organisations, and they've got different skills and knowledge that bring to bear on the problem, which brings that team set approach, provides that avenue for creativity in the problem solving. The action learning approach to it is often suited to the companies that support this in the production space, in the construction space, and those sort of businesses, but certainly applicable to others. It also suits people that do not shine in a classroom, and I'll just touch on our company demographics later, and it's pretty typical of Tasmanian industry businesses with a high proportion of people that don't have tertiary level education. I'll touch on that in a moment. And it's all about achieving personal development for those people. So the project method is across the 5 days over 5 weeks in each area, so it ends up collecting up to about 15 weeks, and goes through those steps there. It's facilitated, and the team and the facilitator work intensively together during that period, not just for the 1 day per week where it's focused at the site together, but over the 5 weeks in between, and it's about coming back with action that you've taken away to make a difference. I think the involvement of the sponsors and the senior management of the organisations is really important. That happens on the 5th day with a presentation and endorsement of the work. The work's sort of, if you like, at the point there where it's solved but not implemented. So the intent is that the home team members go and implement the actions and take it to that next level, not just learning, action learning, but the action delivery part of it reinforces the learnings that they've picked up and ensures that they can embed them for future work. It's great for changing the organisation's culture and improvement. And that implementation period is typically 6 to 9 months. The last project we had, we're coming to a really good outcome there. I'll touch on it in a minute. This hasn't come through too clearly, but just a little bit about Bell Bay a bit more. And the bits I want to touch on here is that this is our 2019 Sustainable Development Scorecard. It's publicly available. The 2 areas here that we're a site that's fairly 65 years old. It's got its challenges around risk. You saw some of that high risk work that Bill presented. And our safety performance has been one that we've really striving to improve. And you can see 2019 there, 3 injuries. The fantastic news for us is from that point, and we passed 536 days without hurting anyone on site in a serious way, which was a record for the site. And I think it just demonstrates the culture we're building at Bell Bay around improvement and innovation. You don't get that without getting a lot of people on board. The other one I just want to draw to is the number of people. So we've got about between full-time employees of 478. There's 91 contractors, so about 550 people intensively working on the business. But we impact about another 300 odd suppliers. So there's a fair impact on a lot of people in this region. And like I was saying before around demographics, the action learning suits really nicely to this, to our people, because often 50% of our workforce would be at what we call an operator level, which is generally secondary level education. A large proportion of them, given Tasmania's education history, would actually left around the year 10 mark and not done senior schooling. So they're not often people that shine in a classroom academically, but in action-orientated work, they do, and this is probably rings true for a lot of industry in Tasmania. So it's a really applicable approach. Right, that's probably enough background. I don't know how long that went for, but we considered how to best reflect on the journey for 10 years would be us as participants. So the way we've gone about that is to do some interviews which are captured on a video, and the other way is to we did a survey which I'll provide some feedback on. So the team members from Bell Bay, there's 16 of them on the right there. You can see are probably the true stars of the show here. They're the ones that have grown through this process. They're the ones that are using action learning now. And you can see some of the wicked problems they've taken on there. They're problems that we didn't have an answer to, that we struggled for years. And even after 10 years from the BALT plant process, we still refer to the learnings from that when we lose a bit of control. And we go back and take the learnings that the team there, Jessica and John, made a difference on to get back to standard and get stability back. So let's hear from our team members.
Our BALT was to do with compressed air at Bell Bay Aluminium, and we actually looked at our whole compressed air system. The problem we've had is our redundancy and the water in the system. The main things we did was got a compressed air leak fitter on for a certain amount of time. Air leaks was a major issue in our air system. We actually figured out that we could save $630,000 annually by fixing our leaks in our system. So that fitter saved a lot of money in the short time that we had him here. We now have a lot more redundancy within our compressed air system. We've made it to a point where we can shut off some compressors at any one time. The project also helped us replace one of our main emergency units, which was really significant because the unit we had didn't suit capacity-wise for what it needed to do. So yeah, that has been a great replacement that we now have as redundancy as well. Being a fourth-year engineering student, I actually found the program super beneficial. So especially a lot of the work I do here is project management, and the lean action tools have been super important in everything I've been doing. I actually have adopted that way of thinking now, and I use that in each project I analyse. I get different sources of information, I retrieve different knowledge from people, and that's been really beneficial not only to my study but also the work I do at Bell Bay.
My project was quite a few years ago, but it was on the bath plant in the rodding room. The distribution of materials into the bath plant, different materials that was going into the bath plant, and how we was kind of sort of distributed that into making good cover for pot lines. We did make some small changes which had some impacts on the amount of material that was and where the materials were coming from and how it was actually put through the bath plant. Yeah. Some improvements were made there around the bunkers as well. We put a wall in to make one of the bunkers bigger, so we could actually separate the coarse and fine materials more. With other projects that I've been involved with, and anything that I'm sort of doing in the bake, it's the lean action learning tools, to actually analyse and measure and be able to improve, and then monitor what sort of changes you've made and how the changes you've made have improved. I've kept all of the information from my project, and sometimes I do actually refer back to it, when I'm doing different projects around in the bacon plant, whether it's changes to fire control system, changes to scrubber control systems, or anything like that. So, yeah.
My experience for Bell Bay was to initiate a tail recovery program, so to make local suppliers more competitive to the Chinese market at the time. So, and to be able to find a way to recover tails that we already used to use back in the new design, rather than have to redesign or have a whole new tail. So I think it was 2016 that we did this project from memory. We're still seeing results from that now. We're still using the recycled tail model currently, which is half the price of getting new tails. So that'll be ongoing for a lot of years to come too. During the project, we actually had to map out a workflow with lean principles in order to make the contracting company viable for China, to compete with China. So using that value stream map and data collection has gone a long way. I use that almost daily in the way I look at things.
My experience with the BALT project, it kicked off. Our challenge was to minimise the crucible deficits across the potline, the annual cruise deficit for the year. Was quite challenging. There wasn't much capital to throw around when we did our project. Yeah, it was quite interesting to work out and see where all the bottlenecks were on site and actually collect the data to find that out. The other interesting thing for me was a trip to Fingal to go down and check out the coal plant down there, and yeah, just to see how that all works. That was interesting. We implemented quite a few tools for tracking and measuring, visual tools. There was an extra emphasis on revamping the schedule for tapping lid maintenance. Some of those systems, they stuck well, and we gained some good mileage out of them. A few of the systems did fall away after time. One of the biggest skills I think we learnt, for me being a bit of a fix-it straight up type person, was collecting the data to actually find out whether it was a problem or whether it was a mythology. So I think that was the big one, really gathering that data before you dip in. So the other side of it was benefit versus effort. You know, which critical few should we emphasise our efforts on? So there's sort of some skills that I've taken out of that.
Can you hear me now? Yep. Good. Thanks, Jen. Have I got control again? No. Oh, there we go. I'm going backwards, not giving away any slides. But I think reflecting on when you talk to the team members, and I appreciate Bill's help getting some of those interviews done, but I've spoken to quite a few people, particularly on the most recent one, is their time on this program is like one of their highlights in the career. And you can see how fondly the team talk to their projects and you know, the detailed knowledge, the takeaways they've kept, and are still talking about how they use. And I think that's really resonated with me, how impactful this opportunity is, and how do we get the most of it going forward. You can see the projects there. I estimate from the working through all the closeouts in our current position that we're easily achieving $3 million per annum on an ongoing basis from the work on just these projects. So I'm thinking, how do we get more? How do we get more people involved? To sort of understand that, we wanted to, there's so much positivity coming back from our team, we wanted to try and find out the opportunities as well. So we used a survey process and anonymous, so pretty basic, used the Likert scale to try and get some views on different topics, and gave the opportunity some direct input and quotes. So I'll go through that data. The topics we were looking for were the personal benefits, the opportunities in the program for the future and how Bell Bay uses it in particular, and the overall business impact and how we get the most out of that going forward. Okay, so these are the key highlights. So I think using a like art style is great, but when you get 100% recommend the program, it doesn't really make any difference. Everything was very satisfied at that end. So huge positivity around the benefits of the program. 100% recommend program to others. The problem we've got is that we haven't got enough of these to get running. So we've got to think of how we're going to do that. 67% very satisfied with the program experience. And people saw the greatest personal growth in managing projects and influencing others. And if you recall in Bill's presentation, particularly for the process controller level or operator level in the business, that was a big area of opportunity for them, is to be able to influence others to get outcomes, to be able to, change the business. So it's good to see that this program's delivering that. Two direct questions we asked. Have you maintained contact with the external networks obtained? And this was seen as something very valuable, but it's interesting that only, less than half actually do maintain that network. It's, I think, an opportunity we could leverage more in the future. And has the participation in the BALT program impacted your career opportunities? So there's near 80% that said yes. So I worked out from our team members that 50% have moved into higher level roles since their participation in the program. So it is a great lever for them to, to go on to different types of work. Just drawn some quotes for you to read there on the key personal benefits. So when I was reading through this section in the comments, the takeaway from me is Jen and Bob Cother, when they wrote a paper in 2017, made an acknowledgement of the theorist style, and with people with higher education qualifications may not enjoy action learning. They enjoy getting into the books and understanding things. Reading through the comments, and I know it's anonymous, but I could certainly get the feel that where we've had people with a technical background, have a more academic background, that they actually were seeing huge benefits from it. Now, whether they were theorists as well, I don't know, but the conclusion I can draw is I think it's suited to a whole range of skill sets. And I think the differences that people bring to the teams is what making the difference from this comment. You can see through those particular comments, but the data, gaining evidence, getting the voice of the people, and getting out and about to understand the process were the key things that people have taken away going forward and how they've applied their work. For the program, this is a bit tricky because, as I said, it was highly positive feedback. So I've actually pulled out the only 3 comments that had some detail on where we saw some opportunity. The highly positive feedback was around personal learning objectives, the ability to use the tools post-program so easily, the facilitation of the action learning approach has helped sustain the development, that work with the facilitator during and post project. Like I said, the networks is a big highlight for people, but I don't see that we're getting the most value out of that. And that data focused change in mindset. So the ones I had to pick out, the 3 here, is giving more people an opportunity to get involved. I think I'd certainly, from my short experience in this, that's something we've got to nail. The time frame is significant. So similar to what Bill was saying about taking people away from their production roles is complicated, not just for Bell Bay, but I think for all the businesses that this has been used for. So an ability to do that. And I think Bill's touching on different methods of having alternatives to this program. This program has its place, but alternatives that allow us to get similar learnings and use the action learning tools. And I think the choice of meaningful projects is so important, and the organisation support. And finally, just on business impact, and I think this is one area that I had a little bit of dissatisfaction come through on this like art scale. And I think it's quite interesting because the projects often have a high level of ambiguity. And so with people going into it with a certain mindset and mythologies around that, it doesn't match, the outcomes don't match what they see. I think the reason this has got a little bit of orange in there is that sustainability that sort of come through in some of the comments. So that's my quick analysis there. And the sustainability in a large business where you've got 450 people is always a challenge. So I think the takeaways in that previous slide are quite important going forward. This comment is just really good. BALT provided us with traction. It meant several of the right people had their minds on the issue. This led to outcomes we have now. BALT was saved a significant amount of money and helped improve critical assets on site. Just seem to sum up if I want to explain any reason for keeping this going, getting more involved, it's the quote that I'll refer back to. So a bit of a summary, and I've got a question. We'll check time first though. I tried to put a summary in, but I just thought it's just been an overall, it's achieved great benefits for Bell Bay Aluminium. And there hasn't been another organisation that I know that has been involved that hasn't spoken really highly of this program, both for its business in delivering some, tangible benefit to their organisation, and for the people involved. I think, the most important asset and the long-term benefits from that. So I'm a huge advocate, short time, and I just want to get more. And I know the program's based around, it doesn't really suit the COVID environment, but we're going to explore certainly different ways and make it work going forward. The takeaways for us at Bell Bay Aluminium, we want to continue to support the BALT programs. We've got to make sure the projects address an issue of high priority that tick the right boxes, so we get the best action learning for the participants so they can use that going forward. And I think leveraging those networks a bit more, those fresh eyes make a big difference. It's one of the founding principles of the program. And if it's working well during the program, how do we make it work well post? Is there some catch-ups from some reviews that need to happen down the track to maintain that contact? And it's sort of what Bill's touched on already, and what we need to do going forward is incorporate action learning into our other business projects. We need to get more people exposed. 15 over 10 years, with the direct competency level recognition. Why can't that be more like 25% of our workforce? What would our business outcomes be like if we had that? So we can accelerate the learning and benefit. So probably just before I go to the, I've got a little bit of action for us to reflect on our journey, but just before we do that, I thought it might be, if you've got any questions about the program, I may even throw to Bill or Jen if there's some specifics, because they're a lot more involved with the specifics of it. If you've got any questions about Bell Bay Aluminium, we'll just have a chance to talk them through. Siobhan, I'm pretty right for time, I believe.
Yep, you've got, if we take the extra 5 minutes that people have for the break, so you've got 15 minutes.
Yeah, we should be fine. I doubt our reflection time would even take that long. So is there any questions?
I've got a question for you. How far up the management chain, if you like, is this going? You said before it'd be good if 25% of people did it. Obviously, the managing director doesn't think that's the case. I'm curious to know what he thinks about it. Does he know about it?
So Dan, we're in a really big organisation, Rio Tinto, and this is specific to Bell Bay Aluminium. So when we talk, our senior leader on site, the general manager, Shona, fully supportive of this. The program's probably limited to, Bell Bay doesn't want to be on every single one, it's a collaborative effort right across Tasmania. So we've been very fortunate to be involved in 6, and that's probably a higher proportion than we should have had. We need to get lots more other businesses in Tasmania involved. I think that the question you're posing though is the one about how do we get without the program, how does Bell Bay Aluminium get more out of it? And maybe we run the same program, but run it across our departments and focus in on more projects across the year. And I think this has been the great benefit of me taking some time to reflect on it, in that our only avenue for this action learning was to go through the broader BALT program, but we can do things within our own business from the learnings that we've got. But our organisation's management team, which I'm part of, and our leader, Shona Markham, are fully supportive of this. We want to get on to the next one, but we probably need to leave it for 3 other businesses. And we've got some plans on how we run this on a different particular project on site.
Yeah, there's some that you can run. There's a method of running them yourself. Don't even use a facilitator. That maybe you could try out. Yeah,
absolutely. And Bill's gave a little bit of insight in there, what we have tried, but I don't think we've formalised that well enough to test and improve over time. That's definitely our next steps.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks, Dan. Is there any others? Can be about anything specific about the program that I can throw to Bill on.
What are the plans going forward, Mark? Because you've talked about what's happened in the past. How are you going to evolve this program to ensure that it carries forward?
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe that's a good one for Bill. You can pass that.
Well, I think maybe for the BALT team to discuss the specific BALT program first, and then I can talk about Bell Bay Aluminium. Yeah.
Yeah, basically, we've got a program committee looking at developing more programs. So part of this year was about getting the word out there in the greater community, and hence we got involved in this conference. We'll probably do something along a more local scale shortly once things calm down a bit COVID-wise. But we're constantly looking at getting more organisations involved. One of our limitations is facilitators. So there is only so many we can run in one year. We have been looking at what we can do to get professional facilitators on board, and part of our strategy has been getting larger companies on board that have similar people to my role, where they can put a bit of time towards it, but not the full 100% of their time. So if we can get 3 or 4 people from larger companies supporting one or two programs each a year, we could up our the number of organisations involved. So that's our overall strategy.
So for us, it's really a really important program. It's part of what we see as our community contribution to Tasmania. You'll see it down on partnerships at the bottom left there, about 150,000 a year we're contributing. This forms part of that work. And we want to have other businesses in it. It's not just about Bell Bay being on each one. However, if we need to make up the numbers, we'll find a way to support, because we see the benefit of other Tasmanian businesses doing well. It's good for us as well. Quite often, some of the BALT programs have included our suppliers, so there's upside in them doing well and learning from these activities. So we'll be a supporter going forward, but I think it's about getting other businesses involved. What I should say on that partnership space, in 2020 has been a very different year when you look at can't wait till the scorecard comes out, but we've upped that level by 4 times this year because of the COVID impacts to businesses on site across the state. And look, that's been proven problematic for the program as well. So we'll have to bounce back once the appropriate timing is there to get businesses back involved in this. for Bell Bay, I think it's about how do we replicate this program on an ongoing basis that complements this work, doesn't overtake it, and get more people involved. And Bill and I would probably have made more progress on that with a different environment this year. The COVID workplace is very different to what it was previously, and how we would run these sort of improvement projects that we take on. Okay, if there's any other questions.
We might have brought it back on time to 5:30.
I've just got, I did have a group session to reflect and share on. You might not be involved in an organisation, but your team or in your personal journey. I thought we could just break out into teams, and we only need 5 minutes, I think, for this, Siobhan. We don't need a feedback. Okay. But I thought the real benefit in this process for me was that it made me think about the future. It made me think about all the good things in this that we've just rested on, and we may not have taken the action to make it even better going forward. So I just thought, give yourselves 5 minutes in small groups to reflect on your current position in the journey and what it means for you on your next steps to improve.
Personal reflections.
Probably something for you to take away from here was really maybe challenge your thinking. I think doing the review for Bell Bay Aluminium has really prompted us to say, hey, there's a lot more we can do, and I trust that's what you can take away from this. Regardless of what program you're using or how you're going about it now, it's always good to look back in the rearview mirror, take a snapshot of what people are really getting out of it, and leverage it.
Good. So thank you, Mark. We'll do our virtual claps.